Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby.
And today it's our Mailbag episode.
Yeah, we're both going on vacation sort of this weekend, so we're probably not going to be able to put together a episode proper. So we thought we'd dig into the old email archives and see what y'all have to say and read some
old email archives. It's like Indiana Jones's warehouse, but it's just full of emails. Yeah.
If you're binge listening to this podcast and you come across this episode and you're like, boy, I can't wait to hear what old games they're talking about today, you're probably going to be disappointed. You may just want to skip over this one.
That's true. But if you
want to hear what it was like in May of 2021 when people are emailing us, keep listening.
Yeah, we got a lot of emails too. I'm very happy with it. Very happy with how it turned out. Hey, you want to start us off, though? You want to kick off the old email train?
Yeah, I'll kick off the email train. We got one from Tyler from Colorado. Again, Tyler says, hey, just wanted to say a shout out to Drew in Chicago for beating all the Resident Evil games. That was very impressive. That's a great accomplishment. Also, just a warning, when you try to beat Resident Evil Survivor, it's an arcadey shooter and you can't save it all, so you have to beat it in one go without dying. But it's pretty short. Fun, quick game. Also, you guys were talking about... Wait, did we already do this email? I feel like we've done this email. This is really old.
No, I don't think we did, because we held off from it on purpose because of the mailbag episode.
Oh, maybe I just read it so long ago. Okay, we may have to edit this part. All right, I'll just start over. Okay,
start from the top. Here we go.
Yeah. So Tyler says, hey, just wanted to say a shout out to Drew in Chicago for beating all the Resident Evil games. That's a great accomplishment. Also, just a warning when you try Resident Evil Survivor. It's an arcadey shooter and you can't save it all, so you have to beat it in one go without dying. But it is pretty short. A fun, quick game. Also, you guys were talking about Prey, and I think a fun thing you could do is hit all those space sci-fi games like Alien Isolation, Prey, and Dead Space. Also, Mike, I don't know if you want to do this, but you should say where your comedy shows are sometimes. If you're ever in Fort Collins, Colorado, I'll definitely support your show. Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. High five, Tyler. Name buddies. Also, Tyler's working together to support Mike in his dreams.
Tyler's for Tyler's. That's the name of my charity.
Tyler's
for myself. Tyler's. So, two things. One, I love the sci-fi games idea. I'm a big fan of it. I wanted to So there's a lot of horror games, and the problem is I keep wanting to do these Halloween-y style episodes, but there's just too many horror games to do that. So we should do a sci-fi game like Alien Isolation, Prey, or Dead Space. I actually have Prey, the newer one, on my Xbox right now because it's a Game Pass game. Definitely going to do that. Two, I will let people know where my comedy shows are right now. I'm finishing up school, and then I'm going to be going on the road a little bit more. So I'll have more dates. But fun fact, I've done comedy in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it was delightful. So
all right. Yeah, so maybe you'll get to meet Tyler from Colorado.
Colorado's a great state. Really fun stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, thank you for the email, Tyler.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to say Dead Space is too spooky for me, bro. I'm for that reason, I am out.
Is that a no for you? Just Dead Space is a no?
Yeah, Dead Space is a no from me. It's too spooky.
I'll try it. And I'll get scared, and then I'll call Tyler late at night and I'll have to talk to my ear to make me fall asleep. That's how we'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, these emails are, we've been holding them, we've been saving them, so here we go. This one kind of dates itself. What up, Mike and Tyler? Great episode this week. I've never played the BioShock series, but y'all have me convinced to check it out. This is from Will, by the way, from Tejas, as he says.
Tejas.
So this is from the BioShock episodes. Will goes on to say, I don't have a coherent thesis to this email. It's just more of random musings I wanted to share with the class. I like that. I had to do a lot of driving last weekend, so I played some of the old episodes, and y'all probably mentioned this, but I didn't realize you had remastered the old ones. Yeah, I mean, I say that term very loosely, remastering.
Yeah, I didn't even know we'd done that either.
Yeah, I just kind of ran it through some stuff, but it looked fine. I just kind of edited a little bit of it. I really appreciated the laugh track every time someone mentioned nutting. I also love the part where you were talking about Atari's Mad Men culture, where they named projects after attractive employees, and Mike bursts out laughing while Tyler sounds so unimpressed. It does sound like something I would do. I'll end my rambling with a question. Which console had the greatest impact on you personally? For me, it was the GameCube by far. It had some of my favorite Nintendo entries on it, plus it was my introduction to JRPGs, and just had an all-around replayable library of classics. It also helps that it came out when I was a kid, so like I mentioned previously, it was my first introduction to a lot of different gameplay styles. Thanks for reading this long email. Keep up the great work. Will from Tejas. Oh man, I know exactly what the console that
Which
was
one?
like the greatest impact. N64, hands down.
Oh, me
it was,
too.
It was like my first console.
Yeah. So I had a Super Nintendo a little bit before the Nintendo 64 came out, and I loved my Super Nintendo. I played it a lot, but I remember when the N64 came out, and I must have been, would it come out in 1996? So I was 6 years old, so that's how old I am. I remember when the Nintendo 64 came out, and it was this like, I was just at the age where I was able to grasp the technology leap and how these games were going to be much more impressive than Super Nintendo games. And so when I finally got it, which was a little bit later, I loved it. And then I just played the crap out of it because I got it fairly early on in its lifetime. I think I got it in 97. So I had it until, for several years. So that's where I did most of my gaming. That's where I played Ocarina of Time. Nintendo 64 is the system that made me a gamer.
Yeah, it's weird that you mentioned that because thinking about it now, I had two consoles before. I had a Nintendo, the classic NES, and then I had a Sega Genesis. And both of those, if I recall, were like weird, like given away or like church auction consoles, And I think, not that made them worse, because I really loved my Sega Genesis. I still think about it a lot, and I am still upset that my mother got rid of it now, and I'm 33, so there's that. But I think the N64, like you said, was the first time I noticed a technological leap in gaming. Like, it wasn't just 2D platforming anymore. I'm like, this is in 3D, Mario Kart. You're like driving behind him. Like, it was just crazy to me. And I think that's when I realized I comprehended that. So that's a very good point you make, Tyler. What I'm saying is I agree with you in the longest way possible. Do you want to do the next email? Which is actually from Will also. Will had a second email, which was good.
Will gave us a second email. Yeah. Okay. Second email. That's the subject, actually. Second email. Will says, "Good morning, Mike and Tyler. I figured I'd send an addendum to my last email after hearing about the planned Mailbag episode." Hey, that's this episode.
Yeah.
Now that this generation is wrapping up, except for Nintendo, who would you say has won this gen? I think it's fair to say that for a while this one was seen as pretty boring. There wasn't much drama outside of Xbox's bungled launch of the Xbox One. It looked like the PlayStation 4 was the clear winner because after a strong first year, the Xbox One sales started to lag and Nintendo looked like it was done for. Now with the Switch, Nintendo was selling games like hotcakes and gangbusters. So who won? Or is it too early to tell? What's the case for each company? And are we considering 3DS and Vita as part of this gen? Looking forward to your thoughts on this. Will, from the state formerly known as Coahuila y Tejas.
Yeah, getting Spanish on this podcast. I love it. I am of the mindset that, because this is good. This might be a hot take. I think PlayStation lost this generation because
hot take indeed.
Because of how they Nintendo and Xbox adapted more, if that makes sense. Yeah. Xbox One near the end. Maybe I should say this. PS4 lost in the end because I do agree they won in the very beginning. They had these amazing exclusive titles. They crushed it. Okay. But Xbox One near the tail end, like what's the last year or two, having Xbox Game Pass is revolutionary. Like this is going to be how people play games. I am convinced in the future. Like you're going to pay subscription just like Netflix. You're going to have all these games. It's going to be great. And then Nintendo, on the other hand, like just all bangers, all bops, every game that comes out for Nintendo. Animal Crossing alone, you could say, is an argument for Nintendo crushing it during these last...
Oops, all hits.
Oops, all hits. And also the Switch's portability, like that's huge. They're adapting. And so I wouldn't include the 3DS and Vita because I feel like that's still a little bit like last generation before. But I only say that PS4 lost, in quotes, because of they didn't really change their business model where I feel like Xbox and Nintendo have. Nintendo's always doing that though, like with the motion controls for the Wii, but this whole portability thing with the Switch is just crazy. I would say Switch is out on top though, because it's still too soon to tell for Game Pass, I suppose. You know?
Nintendo's on like a weird sort of off cadence too, because depending on where you look in this generation, like the Wii U was far and away just a disaster, like just failure, right?
Yeah.
I loved it. I think it had a lot of cool games. I hold it close to me, like I hold my GameCube close to me, even though GameCube also lost that generation in terms of sales. So Switch is still a little too early because it's on that off cadence, and I mean they're winning because they're selling a lot and it's innovative. Like I don't think there's like a chance here that Nintendo screws it up.
Because you got Breath of the Wild, Smash Ultimate,
oh yeah,
and then Animal Crossing are like three of the biggest games, I feel like, around.
Yeah,
And then,
definitely.
yeah, I'm going to stand by my PlayStation loss because PlayStation in this situation now feels like the old man that won't change in a way.
Yeah.
They're not changing their business model at all. Don't they have kind of their own subscription thing, but it's not as in-depth as Game Pass?
Yeah, they have PlayStation Now, which is like a game streaming thing that works about as well as any other game streaming thing, which is to say not great. There's a lot of good games on it, and they've added a lot to it since the competition with Game Pass, and they've made it, I think, so you don't have to stream games. If the game is on PlayStation Now and it's like a PlayStation 4 game, you can just download it to your PS4, I think. So They sort of have a Game Pass thing, but not quite to the level that Microsoft does.
I have another point too. PlayStation also feels like an old person because they are not adapting their games to the PC and not embracing like personal computing as much as Microsoft is, which is a huge deal to me. So maybe that's why I feel like PlayStation lost, because I am now, thanks to Tyler, obsessed with PC gaming. So
PC gaming.
And I mean, if all the Sony hits came out on PlayStation, on a PC, how much money would they make if they had like a PlayStation titles on PC? They would just be rolling in cash.
Well, and they got to be making those like they're making the call on that because they know that they will sell X number more units, but those units don't lock people into PlayStation, right? So like when they have a good exclusive that sells PlayStation consoles, there's a good chance that people will then, because they now have a PlayStation, they will buy more PlayStation games because they're locked into that. Whereas if you sell on PC, you're not getting locked into any sort of ecosystem when you buy a game. So the games have to just sell themselves, and they can't rely on being locked into an ecosystem.
But PlayStation could just have their own dumb game store like Ubisoft does and EA does with Origin.
But if they sell you a console, they make money off of every game you buy for that console. If they sell you a dumb game store, there's nothing stopping you from buying from Steam or Epic or
what if they do the
Microsoft
PlayStation,
on your PC?
The PlayStation box, and it's a PlayStation personal computer? It's just a PlayStation. That runs
It's
Windows.
just a PlayStation. It only plays PlayStation games. It's a personal computer that only plays PlayStation games.
What do you think, though? Sorry, I went really hot with the take. I feel like I've gone hard into the paint. I'm gonna get emails for it, I think, and I'm ready for them.
So I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with you on this one. I think so. It really depends on how you look at it. I mean, if you go by sales of consoles, I think PlayStation wins, and that's whatever. That's an objective measure you can use. But I think this was a rebuilding generation for Microsoft because, like Will said, they bungled it in the beginning when they announced the Xbox One and it was all about TV and sports and stuff that weren't games.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they clawed it back. It's not that way now, but that's how it started for them, right? And then they just didn't have games. I mean, they had some games, but most of the games that were on.
Anybody?
Yeah, Rise, Son of Rome. But like in terms of exclusives, they didn't have the library. They still don't have the library that PlayStation does, I think. I mean, you got your Halo, sure. Halo 5 was controversial at best, I think. Not everybody loved it the way they loved older Halo games. You had stuff like Sunset Overdrive, which I understand was pretty cool, but there weren't that many system sellers, and so a lot of the games that people were playing on it were games that could be playing on PC or PlayStation. So I think they early on in the generation, they didn't do very well. What they started to do, though, is they started to buy some studios. They bought a lot of studios. They're still buying studios. So it's a rebuilding generation for them. And now that they're embracing the PC as another platform for them, because that's another thing that Microsoft owns. So like what's good for, like before, Microsoft sort of had Xbox competing with PC, which is silly because both of those things are from the same company and they shouldn't be competing with each other. So now that they've opened themselves up to that, they may lose some Xbox One sales because of that, but I don't think that's a bad thing because you're still buying your games from Microsoft. You're still playing them when you play them on your PC, you're still giving them your money. And the process of porting a game from Xbox to PC is, I don't want to say any engineering task is trivial, but it like compared to porting a PlayStation game or something else, it's much easier, I think. So by the end of this generation, they've set themselves up really well. Game Pass is great. I think they're going to win this next generation. But it all comes down to the games, and they still don't have the games. They have a lot of games, and they're getting more. But I can't think of a single game besides Halo that I'm like looking forward to that's in the Xbox ecosystem. But I can tell you right now, I am hyped for Ratchet and Clank. I am super hyped for any new Spider-Man game, and Miles Morales was awesome. Those are exclusives. Sony has been playing a little bit with putting PlayStation exclusives on PC. Horizon Zero Dawn is on PC. Death Stranding is on PC. I don't know. I think that was a Sony sort of exclusive.
Until I hear Uncharted or God of War, I'm not interested.
I know. I would love that. And there's a rumor, I think, that Last of Us is maybe going to have some kind of remaster that may include a PC version. So they're sort of testing those waters out a little bit. And I think maybe you're right that they should go there, and maybe they should operate a store on the PC platform.
The Sony Station Store. I'm not really good at marketing.
Yeah. Just call it the PlayStation Store on your PC.
I actually
buy PlayStation games.
Have an idea then. How about this? How about we do it this way? Let's do our Mike and Tyler separate 2021 or whatever this generation is called power rankings. So who do you think won first, second, and third? Okay.
Of the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation?
And Switch.
And Switch. Okay, yeah.
Because my mind, Switch for me is number one.
Oh, yeah, far and away. It's in its own league.
Yeah,
you can't even count.
Yeah, I feel like we both agree on that Switch is number one. The only difference is I think Xbox One is number two because it doesn't matter how you start. It depends on how you finish. And I think Xbox is finishing better than PlayStation 4 did in this generation. Maybe I'm wrong there. It's an opinion piece. But that's my... So I would go Switch, Xbox One, PS4. And I'm assuming you're flipping that to Switch.
I'm flipping that, yeah.
PS4
because if you ask me the question right now, you say you have to get rid of all your video games and you can pick one console, I pick PlayStation.
Oh, you wouldn't pick Switch?
Well...
Oh, man.
Okay. I mean, maybe I pick Switch, but like...
Between those two, sorry. I didn't mean
I think we're arguing over second place here at this point.
Really
because
are.
Switch is far and away it. So yeah, I guess I pick Switch if I can only have one because there's a lot of reasons for that. But if they said you got to get rid of all your games, PC games included, you got to get rid of all your games, you can only keep one system, I think I keep the PlayStation because I love those games and I can't play them anywhere else.
It's like one of those deals where like, okay, we're giving you your Switch, but then pick out of those three.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another thing that's for your column, Persona 5, big game for PlayStation. And I know you're a big Persona 5 guy. So, that was about a 10-minute detour on one email.
They got all the early versions of like Final Fantasy. I guess Final Fantasy 15 came out on PlayStation and Xbox at the same time. It was PC that got it later.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you heard our heated debate.
Yeah. You can't play Final Fantasy 14 on an Xbox.
Yeah, it's true. You can't do that. Red Mage for life. Right?
So that's it. Wow, we went pretty hard on that one. Thanks for the email, Will.
Thank you for the email, Will. This got real heated, and by heated I mean cordial and kind. Okay. This next email is from. Oh, is this mine or yours? Did I just read the last one?
I read the last one, I think.
Okay, then this is mine. Xavier sent us an email. What are your favorite games you emulated? And will you ever do a Kirby or video game music episode? All right. Response to number 2 question. Of course we will. We'll do Kirby. We'll do video game music. Those are on the list. We got it.
Yeah.
We got to do those.
Yep.
Okay.
Got to do them.
Got to do them. All right. But as far as games I've emulated goes, I mean, I love emulating Pokemon, like classic Pokemon games.
Yeah.
That's like something it's a phase I go through every 3 or 4 years where I'm just like, I just want to play Pokemon, And that's the way
There's so many good mods and stuff too if you want to like change it up.
Obviously, I have my fully legal copy of the game sitting right next to me while I'm emulating it. I'm just staring at the legal copy while I play the emulation. I put it in a frame and I put it on my desk. And I draw a heart on the frame and then I play the emulated copy.
You're like Wolverine with the picture frame.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
Yeah.
You have a game you emulate that's your favorite?
Favorite game that I've emulated? Wow. So as much as I love emulation and like keeping up with that scene and I love the idea of it and like, I don't do it that often. I don't tend to. That's a great question. So, game that I like. I mean, Pokemon is great. Pokemon.
I think great. It's money. Yeah.
Yeah. I did play through all of Final Fantasy VIII in an emulator. I guess if you want to count it, it was the official emulator for the PSP that plays Final Fantasy games. So maybe it doesn't count. Technically, it's an emulator. It does work by emulation.
Were we talking about legal emulators? Because isn't technically like the Super Nintendo and then NES Online Switch dealios, those are emulators technically, right?
Yeah, technically those are emulators if you want to get
if you want to get real technical with it. But
I feel
like Xavier's talking about us like straight up, you got to download some weird stuff to make it work.
Yeah, you got to unofficial emulation things. I mean, Persona 5, you emulating Persona 5 on the PlayStation 3 emulator, it's like one of the best games to emulate on a PlayStation 3 emulator on RPCS 3. Although you will find no mentions of it on their website because they were using it a lot in their advertising around when the game came out as a like, here's how to play Persona on your PC, and they got they ran into some legal trouble, so they can't talk about the game on their website, but it does run really, really well. Also, Breath of the Wild has a really cool mod scene for the CMU Wii U emulator. It runs really, really well in the Wii U emulator. You can play it at like 60 frames a second, 4K. There's all kinds of cool mods for it. That is a really fun game to emulate also.
Nice. Great question, Xavier. All right.
Yeah.
You got Tony's email?
Yeah, I'll get Tony's email. The subject line is "Great podcast!" Tony says, "Hey guys, recently discovered the podcast while browsing for new podcasts to listen to. I was immediately hooked and started listening to episodes whenever possible. I'm still catching up on all the past episodes, but I want to send a message and tell you how great the podcast is." Oh, thanks, Tony. "I'm in my early 30s now, but I'm a nerdy guy and loved video games growing up. Due to a bad relationship and subsequently throwing myself into my work in my 20s, I lost my passion for games and many things I once loved doing. A recent career and relationship change helped with that work-life balance, giving me a chance to find your podcast, which rekindled my love of gaming." I'm glad
we love to hear that.
Do that for you.
Yeah.
He goes on to say, "I've loved listening to you guys explain the history of the industry, especially since I was a kid when the console wars were happening. Your podcast inspired me to not only begin collecting some old consoles and games, but it also inspired me to pursue a dream of opening a retro gaming/arcade brewery in South Carolina, where I live. I know that there are a few on the West Coast, but we're sadly missing one here. Opening the brewery will let me combine two passions that many of us share, games and beer." I love both of those things.
I do too.
Oh, man. That sounds so awesome.
Are we going to South Carolina?
Maybe. I would love to go check it out. I also had a couple questions for you guys. I'm still getting caught up on the past episodes, so forgive me if you've already discussed some of these, but in the Xbox episodes, you talked about the popular games, including many games in the Halo franchise. I noticed Halo Reach wasn't mentioned. I know that title received mixed reactions from fans, but it was one of my favorites, so I'm curious if you ever played it and what your thoughts were. The answer to that is yes. Love it. We played it very recently when it was ported to PC as part of Master Chief Collection.
Did we not cover that?
I guess not. Was it not in our list of like top Xbox games? We probably didn't cover multiple games from the same series, and I think you got to give it to Halo 3 when it comes to the Halo series on Xbox.
That's true. I love Reach, though. Big fan.
Reach is great. I love 4, too. You know what? I just have fun playing Halo games.
Campaign Halos. We played 5, and I was like, yeah, this isn't as great as the other ones, but it's not like hate-worthy like I feel like people do.
Still fine.
I was still fine with it, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Halo Reach. Love it. Next question. There is a great but not well-known game for the original PlayStation called Legend of Legaia. It was overshadowed by the similar Final Fantasy, but I absolutely loved it and spent many hours playing it. I wish they'd remake it. Did you ever play that one? If not, I highly recommend it. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to the new episodes.
I have
not played Legend of Legaia. I've heard of it, and there was a kid I knew growing up in like elementary school that was like wouldn't stop talking about this game, but I don't know anything about it. I do love me a good JRPG, though.
Were you like, hey, kid, stop talking about Legends of Legaia. We're all Final Fantasy people here.
Yeah.
Okay? Get out of here.
Get out of here.
No, we should check it out then. That would be good. Like little note. Because I bet you there's some real hidden gem JRPGs out there that, like people are sleeping on. And that sounds like one of them. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Tony. Appreciate it.
My biggest problem with JRPGs, like old ones, like I can go back and play an old Final Fantasy and nostalgia can help me power through the rough parts. But old JRPGs that I don't have nostalgia for can be tough with like random encounters being super often all the time and then having long load screens. Usually on PlayStation, they had like really long load screens before the fight. Oh, man. I don't know if Legend of Legaia has that problem, but that's what I worry about when I think about playing old
that's a big
JRPGs.
A big plus for me in playing the new Pokemon games on Switch or the remake with Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu is because I've heard they got rid of those random encounters. Like you see them and you can just walk away from them, which is nice.
Yeah.
Also, it's way more realistic for a Pocket Monster game, so... All right, this next email is from Alexa. It says, email time! Hey, dudes. So I wanted to share one of my thoughts on why things like the CDI and Steambox failed. I think something important for a console to have for it to be successful is to have a distinct identity. The CDI and Steam machines completely lack any sort of cohesive identity since they're not made with a single version in mind. What is a Steam machine? What does a CDI do? Questions like these should be very apparent for the consumer, which needs to be adequately communicated via advertising and such. When you look at the 3 major gaming consoles right now, they all have reasons to play them. Want a console that can double as a portable unit? The Switch. Want a huge library of games, old and new, at an affordable price? The Xbox. Want high quality, frequent, exclusive games with years and years of renowned history behind the franchises? PS5. All of these have a very distinct identity and that goes a long way. I also wanted to know, what are some of your guys' best gaming achievements or feats? I wanted to take a moment myself to brag about mine. I have beaten Mega Man 2 on a Motorola Razr flip phone in 2008.
Wow. Very impressive.
Granted, it ran at like 10 frames per second, so it was slow as heck, but still tough. Arachnid buttocks, Alexa.
Arachnid buttocks. That is very impressive. Holy moly.
Yeah, very impressive. I haven't done anything nearly as impressive as that. I would say it's actually the games that I've 100% achievements, because I only do that with games I really love. Like I did it with Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and I did it with Fallout 4, which is funny because I did it with Fallout 3 also, so that's good too. Those are the games that I remember like bragging about. But I think also like older games. Oh man, I beat Tony Hawk's Pro Skater with like all the characters like 6 times.
Yeah, I could probably like power through Tony Hawk 2 in like a couple of hours.
Yeah, like that stuff, but never anything as extreme as playing a Motorola Razr. That's just super impressive.
Wow. Yeah. I'm not very good at video games, so I don't have a lot of like achievement feats that I'm especially proud of.
Says this all the time. He's good at video games, everybody. I've seen him play video games. He's very good at them. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. But
this
I did
is Mike and Alexa supporting Tyler's.
I did get a platinum trophy on Miles Morales Spider-Man recently, which is only my 3rd platinum trophy. The other 2 being the PlayStation 3 versions of Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank 2 Going Commando.
Nice.
So I got them on the PlayStation 3 version of a PlayStation 2 game and a PS5 game. Those are my only platinum trophies, and I don't think I have any like full 100% achievements. I did do the gnome achievement in Half-Life 2 Episode 2, where there's a lawn gnome you can pick up at the very beginning of the game. Yeah, I carried the gnome all the way to the end of that game, and I got the achievement. I think I did it on Xbox because I don't think my Steam achievements show it, so I must have done it on Xbox. But yeah, I guess I'm pretty proud of that one. That one was tough. The physics are weird in that game, and sometimes the lawn gnome would just fly off into the distance, and you just have to be like, well, I guess I got to reload.
You got to be careful with that gnome. It's true.
Yep.
So you can reload, though, if you drop the gnome. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right. Well, thank you for the email, Alexa. That was good. That was a good question. Also, I totally agree about the console needs to do something. That's a very good point. Like, it has to offer something. Bring it to the table. Okay. So this next email, I'll let you do this. It's from Mo. You want to read it?
Yeah. Boy, do I. Okay. Mo says, the subject here is top secret message for John Glames. Agent Glames, use this decryption device to access your security level 7 communique from Langley, and it's the binary-to-text.net translator. The encrypted message is below. It's a bunch of binary text. I'm going to put it into a binary-to-text converter right now, and let's see what it says. Okay. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. Wow, we just got rickrolled by Mo.
We got rickrolled, and it sounded like Rick Astley was right here on this very podcast.
Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you.
Never gonna give, never gonna give. Okay, good. That was excellent, Mo. Mo has a real email, too. Not like that wasn't a real email. He's got an email for us, not John Glames, I should say. Okay, that's what I should say. Okay, so, hey dudes, it's Mo. If you have time, here's another challenge. You can work together or compete against each other. The subject of this email is Video Game Trivia Challenge. Listeners can play along too. Each correct answer awards 10 spider butts. After you give your response, highlight the hidden white text next to answer to reveal the answer. May the best glames win. So the last time we did this, it was real Pokemon or fake Pokemon. And I think I played that game. So I think you should play this game, and I will highlight the text.
That was really fun. Thank you for that, Mo. The real Pokemon, fake Pokemon was really fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. This is going to be fun too. Okay, so the first question, what year was Super Mario Brothers for the Famicom/NES released in Japan?
In Japan. Oh, 1983. But the exact day is not known.
1985.
85?
Are we Googling it?
I guess it must be. No, it must be. No, it must be 85. You're right.
All right, what is the best-selling...
Oh, I knew it was 2 years before it came out in the U.S., and the NES came out in the U.S. in 87, I think. So, 80... Yeah, no, that's right. 85 is probably right.
Okay, so what is the
83 is probably when the original Mario Brothers was.
Oh,
I bet.
That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the best-selling video game of all time?
The Sims.
Oh, Tyler, it's Minecraft.
Oh, yeah, that's more recent than The Sims. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. So you can tell where my video game knowledge is stuck, and it's squarely in 2005.
This next answer, though, you got this. So easy. What is the name of the mysterious briefcase-carrying man in the suit in Half-Life series?
Oh, it's the G-Man.
Yeah.
And it is, there's a fan theory that it is Gordon Freeman from the future.
Gordon Freeman.
That's
my impression.
Because he has the same green eyes, his face kind of looks the same, and he can't really speak very well, which makes sense because Gordon doesn't speak at all in the series. So think about it.
I think I know the answer to this one, so I'm kind of playing along too, but I haven't highlighted it yet. Number 4. In the original arcade version of Donkey Kong, what was the name of the character that would later be known as Mario?
Jumpman.
I was waiting for you to sing the song. All right, so you have 20 spider butts so far, just so you know. Okay. What was the first video game character to have a balloon featured in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? This is a great question.
Ooh, that is a great question. I think I know the answer. I think it's Sonic the Hedgehog.
It is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes!
Nice, dude. So
Mario would have been an easy guess, but it's Sonic the Hedgehog.
You got 30 spider butts.
I think that's in the Ultimate History of Video Games, and we read it. I think they talked about it.
Okay, that's 30 spider butts for you, Tyler. All right. Gunpei Yokoi, the inventor of the Game Boy, originally worked what role at Nintendo before venturing into game development?
Ooh, I feel like I should know that. Rest in peace, Gunpei Yokoi. I don't know the answer. I'm gonna have to just give up on that one.
So you can actually there's three
give
different
me some hints.
You want some hints? Okay,
maybe we'll do some hints.
Okay, it had nothing to do with game design.
I figured that much.
Yeah, and it's a job. It's a job that would be in an office.
Okay. He wasn't like a receptionist or
no. See,
janitor.
That's it.
Really?
Janitor's the correct question. He had multiple roles, including janitor, maintenance and repair, or assembly line worker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, nailed it. All right. Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, also founded what other company? And I feel like
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, it's Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. All right. Now I believe you have 50 spider butts now, if I recall.
Okay.
Or no, 40. No, 50, because you got the Gunpei Yokoi one. You're good. Okay, 50. What are the names of the 4 ghosts in Pac-Man? There are 10 spider butts given for each name, and I know them.
You know them. I want to say it's like Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and like Bob or something like that.
Close. It's actually Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. And then in Miss Pac-Man, it's Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Sue.
Okay. Wow.
I don't know why I have a space in my brain for that, but it's there. So you got 30 more. So you got 80 spider butts.
Not bad.
That's pretty good.
80
out of a possible 100, I think. No, out of a possible 110. Because there's 4 on the there's 80.
It's a little bit better than 75%. That's a C. That's passing.
That's passing. How did you do, listener? Let us know. This was a great idea, Mo. This is really fun. Thanks, you for making this trivia for us. That was a really good time. All right. Spider butts, Mo. Thank you, Mo. I also love the spider butts and also arachnid buttocks. You can do it either way. All right. All right. Do you got this next one?
Yeah. This one is from Marcel. Marcel says, "Hey, Mike and Tyler. Greetings from Germany. Side note, very sorry about your entry in the Eurovision Song Contest. Marcel, I think Germany was great.
They got robbed. They got robbed.
Yeah. Okay. Marcel says, I recently stumbled over your podcast and I've been binge listening since. I really enjoyed your episode about Call of Duty 4 since it's one of my favorite PC games of all time. I've spent nearly 2,000 hours on it, playing it semi-professional on ESL, that's the Electronic Sports League, and Cyber Gamer. He's never been to a LAN, unfortunately. You play with a mod called Pro Mod, 5 versus 5 search and destroy, no kill streaks, no perks, 1 scope, 2 SMGs per team, only a few maps. It's basically Counter-Strike in Call of Duty 4 without buying stuff. I'm still playing Call of Duty 4 today. Only other Call of Duty I've played is Modern Warfare 2. In an earlier Mailbag episode, you asked if younger people can enjoy older consoles. Since I'm 24 years old and I've only a small memory about playing Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo, which my family borrowed from my aunt, I grew up playing Spyro on PlayStation and mostly Pokemon on Game Boy Advance and later on the DS, starting with Pokemon Leaf Green. But I love old consoles and video games. I got into Super Mario World through watching people play ROM hacks on YouTube, and recently found my aunt's old Super Nintendo in the basement and bought some of the old classics like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, Yoshi's Island, etc. Through that, I really got into video game history, watching documentaries and annoying my girlfriend with random video game facts she doesn't want to know. So I really think you can enjoy consoles and games you didn't grow up with. Another example is for this 14-year-old friend of mine and is also a 14-year-old brother. This guy is really into Nintendo and is buying all the old consoles, even things like the Game Boy printer. The question remains is if it's only a Nintendo thing or can other companies spark this joy for older consoles, games, etc. I guess after all, Nintendo has kind of a special place in gamers' hearts, after all. Last but not least, I've got 2 questions for you. What's your favorite game growing up? And what game do you really want to play but were never able to play? Thank you for your awesome podcast, and pardon my rusty English. Best wishes, Marcel. Your English was fine.
That was amazing English, actually, I would say.
Yeah.
Better than mine. So that was good.
Yeah.
And I live here. Okay. I would say, first question is, can companies spark this joy for older consoles other than Nintendo? I would say yes, because there are some people out there that love some Sega. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Sonic is still in the hearts of many. I have a soft spot in my heart for Sonic because I played a lot of Sonic 1 and 2. But also, I mean, I feel like Atari has that level of nostalgia for certain gamers, for sure.
Maybe.
And, I can't forget this, old PC games.
Yeah.
Like, I would say even like pre-Doom, that we have a lot of people talking on the Discord about text games and like, or those... not just text games, but also old school like adventure games like Monkey Island, that kind of stuff. Those spark some nostalgia, I think. And I think they kind of counts in that same sort of timeline too.
Yeah, I agree.
But what's my favorite game from growing up? That's so hard to say. I would say it's got to be, for me, it's either Tony Hawk or Super Smash Bros. For N64. It's one of those two. But there's also another game that I think I've talked about in here. Snowboard Kids is amazing.
I love Snowboard Kids.
Yeah, it's so good. So that might be one of those there too. But what game do I really want to play but was never able to play? I have an answer for that, and it is Half-Life Alyx. I've been wanting to play that game for so long. I haven't watched any video of it. I've been actively trying to ignore it. Like someday I'm going to have enough money to buy a $1,000 Valve Index. Like I'm going to do that. But I really want to play Half-Life Alyx. So
hopefully someday it won't be $1,000.
Yeah, or hopefully they'll just like, I mean, it would kind of defeat the whole point of the game, but if they just ported it to PC one day. Like,
I think there's a mod group working on just porting it to non-VR headsets.
That would be cool. But what about you? What do you think?
Favorite game growing up, it's got to be either Banjo-Kazooie or Ocarina of Time. I put so much time into those games. I did play a lot of RuneScape for a little while too, but way old RuneScape, like pre-2004 RuneScape.
I think I partied that way. I partied with some RuneScape like that.
Yeah. I just recently logged into my old account because I just wanted to see how old it was. Something prompted me that I wanted to see how old it was, and it was nearly 20 years old.
You still have the account. That's awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't have anything on it. I think it got hacked at one point, but whatever. That's fine. Game that I really want to play, but we're never able to play. That's a good question, because generally, like, if you want to play a game, there's a way to play it, unless it requires some hardware that you just can't get.
I think what we're learning is you're innovative, and you find a way. Tyler finds a way. Much like life in Jurassic Park, Tyler finds a way.
I try to find a way. I think I think Half-Life Alyx is a really good answer for that. Or like Beat Saber. I've never played Beat Saber.
Yeah, there's a lot of VR games I just don't know about.
Yeah.
That I missed out on. I guess, this is going to be kind of a weird answer from me, but I really wish I played WoW in its prime.
Yes, that's it. I wish I played WoW in 2005, like 2007, like right around the Burning Crusade time with my friends who were playing at that time. That's so good. Sorry, I'll let you keep going.
But could that be ours together? That can be ours together.
Yeah.
I had friends that played that and I didn't get it and I didn't understand. And now I'm so jealous of that.
Yeah, and like having the time to really get immersed in the world, and when it was all new, like because Classic is out and Burning Crusade is coming out for Classic soon, but the game everybody knows already. It's already solved, right? Like so, it's just everybody knows how to beat the raids. They know how to do everything. But back in those days, especially before, I mean, I know this is an online game, so the internet obviously existed, but like before guides and videos and stuff were really prevalent, it was a lot of word of mouth, like figuring things out for yourself that is just doesn't exist anymore. And I wish that I had played the game during that time when people were discovering World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and the closest I ever got to that was like those times in Destiny where they drop a new thing and there would be like nothing figured out yet.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen that often because it's covered so much. But yeah, Whisper of the Worm.
Like example. Whisper of the Worm. Yeah. That really, when they did Whisper of the Worm, that really sort of captured a lot of that feeling, I think.
Yeah, that feeling of discovery. You know, you don't get that much anymore. But man, could I sound like more of an old man when I say that? The feeling of discovery. Okay. Thank you for the email, Marcel. Those are some very great questions, and it's awesome to hear from you. And I'm glad that you can enjoy games from kind of like my generation of like the Super Nintendo and stuff like that. That's great. All right, Raphael says, a congratulations email and more is the name of the subject line. Ooh. Hi, Mike and Tyler. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you for the awesome job that you've been doing since 2018. The way you guys talk about the history of video games is very funny and light to hear. I always get excited for the next episode, and I got to tell you that your podcast is one of the best I've ever listened to. Thank you, Raphael. That's very nice.
Oh, wow. That's very nice.
Yeah. Well, I started to listen to your podcast about 2 months ago, and I kind of binge listened it. However, I didn't find any episode talking about the meaning of some games to you. Okay, I know that you guys always say how much you like a game when you're talking about it, but what about doing an episode talking about the games that you find, quote, the best? I'd love to hear about your memories, experiences, and feelings about some, quote, special game. Another thing that I'd like to listen to is the experience of people outside of your home country, since you're both Americans, right? And like, this is true. We are both Americans.
It is true, yep.
You see, it's amazing to hear about some of your experiences. Don't get me wrong, but would be awesome to know how was the gaming industry in different countries besides North America or UK. I can tell you that my experience as a Brazilian gamer, it's completely different from yours. Thank you very much for all the episodes. You guys are the best. Kind regards, Raphael. So thank you.
Yeah, that would be fun to do. I know Brazil has had like different consoles available to them, and like things like the PlayStation 2 I think continued on for a really long time. FIFA 14 came out on the PlayStation 2 in Brazil.
That's a really good point. I totally agree with Raphael. We need to cover out, stretch our, but part of me thinks this is not like our thing to talk about. Like I would rather talk to someone about it.
Yeah, maybe it would. Yeah, we should find people to talk about gaming in their community
when they were growing up, because that's a very good point, and I really like this idea. I want to get someone's experience, because you don't want to hear us reading about it. You want to hear someone talk about it, you know. Because I also heard the gaming scene in like Eastern Europe is very different from like North America, like as far as like games lasting longer and like being prevalent, I guess. Even Europe in general, I'm sure, is different. So I would like to know about that. And also, I feel like we cover Japan a lot because that's just like natural when you're talking about video games, especially Nintendo and Sega and those like the early ones we were talking about, because it really did start there. But knowing more about like the PAL region, I guess you could say. Look at me, video game podcast. We're talking about the PAL region. But you know, I agree, Raphael. That's a great point, and I think it'd be good. Also, games that are special to us. Oh man, can you think of a game that's like special to you?
Oh man, I got lots of games. I mean, I could talk forever about Banjo-Kazooie and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I think special to me would be like Perfect Dark, because that's the game I would play with my brother and like our best friend growing up as like kids. And so that like I can never recreate that time, which is what makes it so special. Like if I picked up Perfect Dark now, which I have it at any time, it just wouldn't feel the same as it did like that moment in time.
Yeah. I've got a lot of memories of playing original Xbox games at a friend of mine's house, because I would go over there like what felt like must have felt like every single Friday, and I would stay the night at my friend's house, and we would always rent an Xbox game because he had an Xbox and I didn't have an Xbox. And his parents would rent us an Xbox game, probably to get us out of their hair so that they could like actually hang out for the night and not have to deal with kids. And we played a lot of different Xbox games. And so still when I fire up my original Xbox and I like look at my list of games, I can remember like playing these like random obscure Xbox games with my buddy, and like having fond memories of that. Good times.
Good times. Thank you for the email, Raphael. And we will definitely look into that. Maybe we could get Raphael's opinion on Brazilian gaming.
Yeah.
You know? Sounds great. So thank you. I'll reach out. Do you want to do... So we actually just got a new email in while we're recording this, and I totally want to read it. So let's do Zach's email, and then I'll do the new email that just came in. Does that work?
I will read Zach's email. Yeah.
Literally while we're recording. Wow, look at how up to date we are. Professional podcasting. Okay, go ahead.
Professional podcasters. Zach says, hey, it's Zach. Awesome guy from the Discord. I've been MIA with school, but I didn't want to miss out on my chance to pepper you with questions. But before I do, I'd like to commend you on the decision to cross the realm into fighting games. So my first question to you, and maybe the listeners, because you guys said you don't play a lot of fighting games, is who is your favorite character and what is your favorite fighting game? So spicy hot take, but my favorite character is Christy Monteiro / Eddie Gordo / Tiger from Tekken. They must all be very similar fighters in Tekken, I assume. I started mashing buttons 2 decades ago, fell in love, and never looked back. I know I just tuned 95% of the listeners against me, but at this point, I just gotta own it. My favorite fighting game is any entry in the Soul Calibur series. Soul Calibur for the Dreamcast is fantastic, and every entry has done a great job of balancing quality of life improvements while maintaining the heart of the game. I find that overall, I think it's super well balanced. Every character is competitive. I also love the overall presentation. The narrator is always on point, and the levels are gorgeous. Plus, the mechanics are pretty tight. It's just a fun game to play. The second, and completely unrelated question, has to do with morality in video games. IRL, I like to think of myself as a nice person. I generally try and do the right thing. But when I play a video game, watch a movie, etc., I generally find myself aligning with pure evil, like totally evil alter ego, and completely out of alignment with my actual moral code values. For example, I never finished Fallout New Vegas because I went on a murder spree and made every faction angry. So my question is, does your video game / media persona match your actual moral code / values? My final question is, what is your favorite puzzle game and why is it Dr. Mario? My family grew up playing this game. It's top 5 game of all time, IMO. Thanks for indulging my barrage of questions. I love listening to you every Monday morning. You're both awesome. Spider butts, Zach.
Oh, so many good questions here. So first thing first, the fighting game character. I think I'm also going to pick like a hack answer, you could say. But it's what I experienced as my first fighting game. I loved Blanca as a kid when I would play Super Street Fighter 2. Is it Street Fighter 2 Turbo? There's like 800 versions.
There's a bunch of them. Yeah, I think Street Fighter 2 is a thing. Super Street Fighter 2 is a thing. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is a thing. I think they're all...
played Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the SNES is what I played. I think is what that's one. But I played that with my babysitter growing up, and I would always play Blanca because I loved the idea of like a Frankenstein kind of monster kind of thing. You know, and the electric one. It's got electric stuff. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But yeah, what about you, Tyler?
Favorite character, Luigi, specifically from the original Super Smash Brothers, because he could do the fiery punch if you lined it up right and smashed it. I won a lot of games with that, and they took that part out of it in Melee, or they made it like way less often. I think it had an RNG element to it, like a critical hit kind of thing going on, or maybe I just got bad, but. That's what I have to go with as a person who's just not really into fighting games at all. So this is not an informed hot take. It's just my opinion.
I thought we were on Smash too. I got to go with Link in Smash. I was a big fan of playing Link.
Link is great.
And N64. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so interesting that Zach brought up the morality in video games because I am going to plug someone else's podcast that I have been listening to. I have no affiliation with either one of these people on this podcast. I just know of it because one of the guys, his name's Andy Ashcraft, and his wife is a comedian named Jackie Cation, who I love and adore and find so funny. And I listen to her podcast, and her husband, Andy Ashcraft, is a game designer, and he started a podcast on the morality of video games, and it's called the Ethics in Video Games Podcast. And both hosts, Shlomo Sher and Andy Ashcraft, do an amazing job of like going over these kind of philosophical questions in video games. And I think, Zach, if you're a fan of us, I think you'll be a big fan of them too.
Oh, so I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's a very cool podcast. Ethics in Video Game Podcasts. It's on wherever you get your podcasts. It's fantastic. And again, they don't know me. I know of them through like a side thing, but I heard it on her podcast one day, the Jackie and Laurie show, which I love to listen to. It's all about stand-up comedy. And I just was like, oh, I should listen to that. And I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted. Like going over these moral decisions that we make in video games and why do you play an evil character? You know, personally, what I think is when your video game persona doesn't match your moral values, it's just role playing. It's fine to be evil in a game. We're playing, well, I guess we could talk about it in the What You've Been Playing segment, but I'm watching Tyler play Mass Effect with our buddy right now, and we're going Renegade.
Going full Renegade, yeah. I have to make a conscious decision at the start of a game whether I'm going to do like what my alignment is going to be, or I just sort of wishy-washy halfway it the whole time. And I don't get any bonuses either way.
Yeah, I'm a guy fully into playing like Paragon or Good first, and then I go bad guy Renegade second. But there's some games that's like super fun to go back. Like Fable, growing horns is hilarious as you get more and more evil. It's just funny. So I don't think there's a problem with playing a bad guy. I also do think though that you can get yourself in quite a pickle, like with Fallout New Vegas, where every faction hates you and you're like, what do I do here? You know, I could never go evil in Fallout 3 because I couldn't blow up the town. I just couldn't do it. Yeah. I just liked that town too much. What about you? Do you have a thought on morality of video games?
I mean, it depends. Some people like to think of them when they're playing a game. They like to think of that character as an extension of themselves, and so what the character does is what they like to think they would do in real life. Other people are able to go full role play and like sort of choose what they want to do. And people, I mean, like lots of times I'll play a game and I'll do it like I'll go wishy-washy the whole way, and then I'll play it again and I'll make a conscious decision to go one way or the other. And that's really more about seeing the content. And like, I just want to know what happens when you do both things. But for me, I will, in RPGs, especially with like a character creator, I will often create a character that's very different from me. Like any chance I get, I almost always play a female character because then I'm able to really separate myself from the character in the game. And then I can start making decisions as that character rather than as myself. And I find that to be a more fun way to play games. But I usually make the call of like, am I good or am I a jerk this time, especially on a Mass Effect playthrough. That's
and I think just another thing that, again, we've talked about doing episodes about doing like the influence Dungeons and Dragons has had on video games. Like that's a huge thing. Is like the whole like morality thing to it. And I think playing Dungeons and Dragons, you learn how much fun it is to play someone that's not like you, because it's like every instinct is you, and he was telling you to run away. But it's like, no, I wouldn't do that. That's not what this guy does. So I have to play it this way. And it's more fun that way. So I totally think it's totally great you always play evil characters. Now, if you ruin the storyline because of it, I think that's on the game dev. Yeah, I said it. Ooh, not so spicy take. But yeah, I think it's totally fine as far as morality goes. But yeah, ethics and the ethics is what, oh my gosh, let me look at my phone again. I just forgot the name of it. It is called, the podcast I recommended was the Ethics and Video Games Podcast. Oh, it is the Ethics and Video Games Podcast. I wanted to throw morals in there for some reason, but it's the Ethics and Video Games Podcast. So listen to that. And puzzle game wise, is Peggle a puzzle game?
Sure.
I love Peggle. Big fan of Peggle.
Peggle's great.
But I also love Dr. Mario. So that's true. I'm really bad at Dr. Mario. I'm bad at all those games. Tetris, Dr. Mario, terrible at them. Horrible.
Yeah.
Are you good at those?
I like Tetris a bit. My favorite puzzle game is Luminous on the PSP, and it's on a couple other things now too because of the way they fuse music and the puzzle game element, and I just love all that together. So I also love the Tetris effect, which is Tetris but with the same musical influence that Luminous has. Love that. I also love. I'm trying to remember what there's like a Japanese name for this tile matching style of game, but it's Tetris Attack or Pokemon Puzzle League. That I also really, really love that style of puzzle game.
Have we covered puzzle games?
I don't know. We should.
We talked about
puzzle
Tetris.
Games are probably some of the oldest games.
Yeah, because Tetris we talked about a bit because you kind of have to cover the history of Tetris when you're talking about the history of video games because the whole like everyone can make a Tetris game. There's no like copyright things with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good legal precedent set with the Tetris.
Yeah, so we should cover puzzle games more. Putting that on the list. Oh man, list is so long. So long. Well, this email just came in All right. Like, it's hot off the email presses, as they say. Okay. And this is from our friend BR. And it says, "Hey, Mike and Tyler, I hope this email isn't too late for the mailbag episode. It most certainly is not. I just wanted to thank you both again for the great podcast and talk about something cool that happened to me recently. A friend of mine sold me his Nintendo 64 with a bunch of games for a great price. A lot of classics here. Super Mario 64, GoldenEye 007, just to name a couple.
Nice.
Anyways, the N64 looked terrible on my HD TV, and I was pretty bummed about it. But then I checked Facebook Marketplace and saw a church near my house was giving away a couple CRT televisions for free that were not being used anymore." Okay, side note, it's true. I don't know what it is about churches. They have old consoles and they have old TVs. It's great. This is not the first time I've heard of this. That's a great thing. If you're looking for those things, check those. Okay, just check it. Okay, anyway, back to the email. So I asked if I could have one, and they said yes. So now I'm playing N64 again for the first time in over a decade with S-Video into an old CRT, and it is sweet. That does sound sweet. I was wondering, what do you guys think of the nostalgia boom for retro consoles these days? What can it be attributed to? Hope you guys enjoy your time away, and I can't wait for the next episode. Peace. Okay, I have an opinion about this that's kind of over-enveloped right now with pop culture from our childhood. And I think the nostalgia boom for retro consoles these days is partially stemming from the pandemic. People are trapped inside. They're collecting toys, like Pokemon cards. Look at Pokemon cards being huge right now. And I think retro consoles are being thrown into that again already, because while there was a retro console boom pre-COVID-19, I think it has only gotten bigger during COVID-19 because we're all inside. eBay's a thing. Just like you did, get a CRT. Get your N64. Relive your childhood. It feels great.
Yeah. I have a take on this.
Ooh, I want to hear a take.
So it also extends from this wider sort of zeitgeist of nostalgia and people like going back to their childhoods and interacting with those things again. I think it's especially popular now. I think you're right. The pandemic has a lot to do with that. But the reason those things have taken off so much is because you can go back and you can watch those old shows now, and you can play those old games, and you can do all those old stuff because media doesn't disappear anymore. If you had nostalgia for the 70s in the 1990s, and a lot of people did, you couldn't do anything about it. The only way you were going to watch a TV show from the 70s was to like wait for it to come on and hope it was on at like Nick at Night or something like that, like in a specialized spot where you would just sort of hope that you reach into the loot box and pull out the TV show you're looking for. And so people had nostalgia. They couldn't do anything with it beyond that kind of stuff. And maybe you could buy some old books or games from that era, but they probably weren't very well preserved because things deteriorate over years. But nowadays, if you want to watch a show from the 90s, you totally can. You can just load it up on your Roku or your Apple TV or whatever you have, and you can find it. Like, you have Disney Plus, and you can watch anything Disney has made ever, right? And so it's so readily available that people are able to go back and watch those shows, and then it sort of is like a positive feedback loop where now they get even more nostalgic because they saw something in that old Fresh Prince episode that reminded them of a Super Nintendo, and now they want to pull out their Switch and play Super Nintendo games on their Switch. And so it's like especially prevalent now, and I don't know if we'll ever get away from that nostalgia loving. I think it will just sort of shift by about 20, like, I think it's usually about 20 years in the past, is 20 to 25 years in the past is what people get nostalgic for, as those people who grew up in that era enter middle age and start to like sort of become disillusioned with life. And like being an adult is hard and has a lot of responsibilities. And I want to remember this old time in my life when I didn't have those responsibilities and when life felt like it was very easy for me. And now it's very easy to do that. So that's my take on that and why nostalgia boom is big. And I don't think it's going away. I think it will just shift the time period that the nostalgia is about.
That is one of the best takes I've heard on it ever. I'm going to say it right now because I didn't even think about the fact that in the 70s you didn't have Netflix, obviously.
Yeah.
Which is obvious, but you couldn't. You're right.
Yeah, and it was like in the 70s, like you said, it was even worse. Like in the 90s, maybe you could catch a show from the 60s or 70s on Nick at Night, but in the 70s, did that even exist?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
No.
Yeah, and also in the 90s, too, if you wanted to listen to music that was obscure, you probably still had to find a record because it wasn't printed on a CD yet, you know?
Yeah, and now if I want to listen to an old Linkin Park album from 20 years ago, which I do regularly, I just pull it up on Apple Music or Spotify, and it's right there.
Yeah, you can become so numb. We can feel you there. You know?
Yeah,
It's great.
exactly. Yeah. In the end.
It doesn't even matter. Oh, gosh. Okay. That's all our emails for the day. Thank you, everyone who sent us an email. That's super helpful. And it makes our lives so much easier for when we go on vacation like this. And we'll be back to your scheduled programming regularly. But before we go, I want to do a little what you've been playing segment because, like I said before, what have we been playing, Tyler? You know, this is
us together have been playing, like we just said, we've been playing Mass Effect.
And because you got the Legendary Edition, and we have a buddy who's watching it too, and we're like making the decisions together. And I have not had this much fun playing a single player video game in so long. And I think it's great that we're like making choices and doing it together, and I'm just having a really good time. And I just wanted to mention that. And so I highly encourage people, if you have like a RPG that you and your friends love playing, like one person should play it and the other one should just like be there because it's so fun.
Yeah.
And you inspired
me
fun to pick up Mass Effect Andromeda again.
Ooh.
Which is a game that I've been playing over the last couple days, which I bought for $12 on Amazon about 3 years ago now.
Nice deal.
Never played. And that's not true. I played like the first hour of it and stopped. It was exactly an hour. I saw my playtime when I loaded my first game again. I beat the tutorial planet and then moved on. And I gotta say, and this is going to be a take that's spicy to some people, but I'm not saying it's as good as the original Mass Effect trilogy, but it's still pretty good. It does not deserve the hate that it got. I think it's a good game. It's different. It's about colonialization, like space colonies and stuff like that. And like terraforming these planets. And it's just kind of like really cool sci-fi. I can see it doesn't have the depth that Mass Effect, the series, had. You can clearly see that, you know, but it's still super fun. And like space colonies and colonizing the whole like Andromeda galaxy, essentially. It's just really cool. Is that still colonialization? Is that the right term? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term, but you know, just space colonies, you know, shooting aliens, discovering mysteries. It's almost like a little bit of like a base building game too, but not annoyingly so. Like you just plant the colony down and they're there, you know? But it's pretty fun. I've been digging it. I'm on a real space kick lately, and it's been doing it for me. So until they make an Expanse video game, I'll be playing Mass Effect Andromeda. And hopefully I'll get the Mass Effect Legendary Collection too, because there's just so much to do in those games.
Yeah. I'm excited to play through those because I've played all 3 of them. You've played the first 2, and the friend that we're playing with has only played the first one. So as we get further into the series, you guys are going to know less and less about what happens and what can happen, and I'm very excited to experience it with you. It's
been so long since I played the first one. I'm like remembering things again, you know? It's kind of cool to like remember like how we met Rex, and I'm like, oh, this is how we meet Rex, and like this bar, and it's just so cool. It does feel like you're seeing old friends game. It feels like watching a sitcom again is what it feels like. But I'm also with you guys doing it, which makes it really fun too. So it's like digital friends and real life friends, but it's enjoyable. So with that is going to be how we end the podcast today. If you want to send us an email, you can always do that at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can join our Discord by going to my Twitter at mecoletta, MECOLETTA, and clicking on the banner, the link at the top that's pinned to my profile. Also, you can get at Tyler on Twitter at SneakerElf, ELPH. And then I think that about covers it.
All right.
Do you want to say bye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody.